Despite being written off early by streamers, Ultron can have a devastating impact as a support or even off-support damage dealer in Marvel Rivals, and after solo queuing all the way from Bronze to Celestial while only playing Ultron, I decided to share my tips and tricks that I picked up along the way as I climbed there, as well as how you too optimally can play this underrated and honestly pretty good hero. In this video, we'll go over how the abilities work, while also covering some optimal use cases along with tips and counters scattered throughout. Also, as usual, I'll be uploading an advanced educational commentary where I go in depth on my decision making in my private coaching community. There are also 15 discounted spots left before the price does go up, so if you want to check it out, that link is in the description. But anyways, let's dive into it. Ultron's primary fire shoots a small beam that deals for 72 damage over the course of half of a second, after which it hits with a larger beam for an additional 75 damage, up to a total of 147, if you perfectly track your target. This high damage means that you can easily destroy any squishy targets within 2 full beams, which in some cases is a much faster burst than they can kill you. But it does take a pretty high accuracy to pull off. Additionally, your primary has a pretty hefty damage fall off, where your shot starts losing potency past 20 meters and then bottom out at 110 damage at 30 meters and beyond. This is pretty significant because it turns your 2-shot burst on squishies into a 3-shot burst or worse, which makes you way less likely to hit 2 shots over range. That being said, with some confidence and great aim, the Encephalo Ray can be an excellent way to deal with any flankers that get too close, or in some cases, you can be the flanker and secure those vital picks yourself.
Now, I've seen a lot of streamers claiming that meleeing after the beam would speed up how fast you can fire, as if there's a way to animation cancel the delay between shots, but after some quick testing in the range, we can safely determine that that was misinformation. Additionally, the reload animation can be cut short by using any ability or a melee at this point of the reload animation. Cutting it short will save you a ton of time, so I recommend getting the timing down and making it a habit to significantly raise your primary uptime. While you normally want to go for the highest possible accuracy while moving around in duels, if you're taking too much pressure, it sometimes makes more sense to pre-rev your primary fire while being behind a corner and then popping out for that 75 damage burst every second or so. This is normally a valid decision if you're taking a lot of pressure or you're taking a duel, as you have a large health disadvantage. You can absolutely use your primary to deal damage to tanks, but generally speaking, that damage will be healed up, and I have found much better value from taking off angles, peeling and dueling a flankers, or just plinking and looking for picks off the backline, especially in the lower to mid and even high ranks of Rivals. It is especially useful against flyers, who usually have nowhere to go, especially if you keep them at an arm's length depending on the matchup. We're gonna cover the matchups a bit more in depth later in the guide, so don't worry about that. But the trickle damage along with the hard hit is oppressive enough to scare off any flyer out of the sky and down onto the ground or behind cover, unless they happen to be within their optimal range and are receiving sufficient amounts of support, such as healing and cover and supportive fire from their team. Ultron's first ability, and really only way to heal his teammates, is the Imperative Patch ability. Activating the ability sends out a drone to your targeted teammates, which then sticks onto that teammate and follows them around unless you run out of its 30-meter range. Leave line of sight for more than 5 seconds, the teammate dies, or you move it to someone else. Or I guess if you die. As long as the drone is attached to a teammate, it will heal that teammate for 45 health a second, and any nearby teammates within the visible bubble for 30 health a second as well. As I said, the drone is really your main source of healing, and a lot of people really get this wrong, and while it doesn't apply strong burst healing, like Luna or Loki, it will still give your teammates a surprising amount of passive healing that really adds up over the course of an entire game. Sure, in the firing range, it doesn't really look that impressive, but take a look at the scoreboard at the end of the game and you will notice just how much you actually contributed. The first mistake that people make with this thing is putting it on a flanker, as if it was a Luna blessing, and then leaving it be. Not only will a drone disappear when the flanker leaves range or goes behind line of sight like, flankers tend to do, but it will also not really heal them for 99% of its uptime, making it a massive waste of potential healing. The second and very common mistake that I see even more Ultrons waste is putting it on that one teammate, usually their tanks, and then letting it be. This still wastes a ton of potential uptime, as sure, it adds a little bit of trickle heals to your tanks and the occasional nearby teammates, but your tanks are usually playing on their own or slightly ahead of their team, and heal won't actually affect any other teammates because, well, they just aren't going to be close enough.
The optimal way to use your drone is constantly moving it around between teammates as necessary. It has no cooldown, and moving the drone around between them is instant, so making a habit of looking at your teammates and moving the drone around where healing is needed will significantly increase your healing output and keep your teammates topped up. Sure, in some cases, placing the drone preemptively can be useful if you know damage is about to come in, but I would just recommend looking back towards your team and moving it around every few seconds. What I ended up doing was using the drone to cancel the reload animation. It is the fastest way to cancel your reload and also forces you to look back at your teammates to heal every time, which then lets you accomplish both the optimal reload cancels and moving the drone around as much as it might be needed at the same time. While you cannot put the drone on yourself to heal yourself up, that doesn't mean you can't put it on a teammate and go within the bubble to start receiving healing. This is where having another flyer teammate to play off of is useful, as you both can stay in the sky while benefiting from the drone's healing. Also, it's worth mentioning that since the drone disappears without you really noticing, making sure that you are moving it around every few seconds will stop it from having unnecessary downtime if you happen to not be paying attention. Ultimately, we prefer if the drone is sitting on a high-value target and actively healing, but having the drone on top of a teammate when you are busy doing something else is better than not having it do anything at all. Ultron's secondary fire, Imperative Firewall, grants 75 bonus health to Ultron and 55 bonus health to any allies that are either within range of Ultron or the drone's current position. This has a small animation delay, but it is pretty much instant, especially if you throw your drone out to your teammates beforehand. Getting 75 or 55 bonus health at the touch of a button is insanely valuable, and not many utilize the ability to its full potential. At the moment, there are a few ways that you can use this thing to get optimal value out of it, but obviously there's a lot more, and if you guys think of anything, feel free to drop it in the comments. But first and foremost, you want to use this thing to brace for incoming damage, either for yourself or for your teammates. If you know that a huge chunk of damage is incoming, such as a teammate getting dove or you peeking a little bit more aggressively or anything really, then shielding yourself or the teammates will stop the enemy from doing any meaningful damage or building ult charge. The shields take 3 seconds to start depleting, as with any bonus health, so the timing doesn't need to be perfect. I've used the shields to shield my teammates as we engage into a fight or when we get engaged on, but it can also be amazing when defending my teammates against most ultimates or heavy abilities. The bonus shields will absolutely destroy the breakpoints of combo characters such as Spider-Man or Magic, while also saving the skin of teammates stunned by abilities like The Thing or Doctor Strange's ultimates. I have also saved a few teammates from dying to Wolverine's ultimate every once in a while. In some niche cases, it can also be used as a means for you or a teammate to survive some huge damage ultimates like Iron Man's, Scarlet Witch's, or Magneto's if they end up whiffing their ultimates just a little bit. Because then the additional bonus health might be that difference in whether they get that kill or not. So putting the drone on your other support, such as your Cloak and Dagger or Luna inside of their ultimates, will make them love you. And speaking of loving, if you guys are enjoying the video, make sure to hit that like button, and I'm gonna love you. Additionally, it can be used as a way to cancel your reload. It still locks you in a bit of an animation, but if you need to perform a reload cancel and get bonus health at the same time, then this combination might just be the way. That is especially useful for you if you find yourself in a duel or otherwise hectic fight. Either way, bonus health can never be written off, especially and most importantly because it doesn't charge enemy ultimates, so effectively using this ability off of its 10-second cooldown will almost always be ideal. Ultron's second ability, Dynamic Flight, lets him instantly dash 12 meters in any direction depending on where he is currently aiming, combined with whichever movement input you are holding at the moment. After the dash, you receive a 40% damage boost for the next 8 seconds that lets you move around in any direction that you want to stay alive. Using the dash also gives you an instant 50 bonus health, which can obviously be combined with your Firewall for a total of additional 125 health. Since Ultron is a flyer, he works the same as any other flyers where you can move around in any direction, as well as ascend and descend. Using the dash doesn't cancel any of your animations, including your primary fire, so while it can't be used as a reload cancel, that doesn't mean it doesn't have a ton of other uses. Obviously, you can use this thing to dodge enemies. The first dash is incredibly strong and creates enough distance to keep you at a healthy distance from anyone who might be jumping you. 12 meters is also usually enough for you to get out of range of most area of effect abilities or ultimates, and the speed up lets you stay away afterwards. Since the ability doesn't cancel your primary, this also gives you a lot of room for outplays. Sometimes I'll be poking at my enemies until they are low enough or burn their cooldowns, after which I just dash in within that 20-meter primary fire range and get that quick 2-shot burst off.
Since it doesn't cancel your primary, you could even start charging the one shot and then dash in for the hit at the end. I also use the ability as a bit of a leash if I play aggressive, knowing that I can back off to my team or to cover if I end up needing that little bit of extra space. If any of my targets end up ducking behind cover to get away from my beam, I can also just quickly perform a fast dash to the side to get a little bit of a different angle and give me a direct line of sight to them again. And since the primary doesn't stop charging, depending on your timing, it might end up hitting them with the same shots that they were trying to avoid if you adjust your aim fast enough. There's also some hero-specific counters here specifically for this ability. We're going to cover those later in the video. The dash can also be used during your ultimate, which we will cover in a little bit. Just keep in mind that once you slow down, you will feel incredibly slow. And I have gotten caught in the open a ton of times after the speed boost has run out where I end up dying without a way to really escape or to fight back. Just being aware of this will hopefully stop you from making the same mistake. And as fun as using the dash is in most cases, you will want to hold off from using it for no reason. As soon as your dash is on cooldown, you will no longer have that escape, and you need to play closer to cover or closer to the rest of your team, or you will be very easy pickings for the enemies once they catch you out of position. Moving on, Ultron's ultimate, Rage of Ultron, locks you into a brief animation, after which you start firing 5 bursts of 5 projectiles. These projectiles will penetrate any allies that it touches, but stop and explode if they hit an enemy, and either deal 8 damage per beam or projectile, so up to 40 damage per burst, or heal 25 health per beam, so up to 125 health per burst. Once these beams hit the ground, they will explode, entering the range of the initial beam's damage to hit nearby targets within the blast zone. So basically, the shots can penetrate teammates to heal on the way, but if they hit the ground, they will explode, which applies the same effect as long as they are within range, which can be useful if you end up missing or just want to hit a lot of targets that are clumped together. And yes, obviously these projectiles can both deal damage and heal at the same time. Since the damage or healing effect applies in the explosion surrounding the projectile's landing point, it usually makes sense to try to place the projectiles in a way where they end up hitting as many targets as possible, usually by aiming on the ground between them. If there is only one target, then obviously aiming right on top of them makes more sense. For the entire duration of your ultimate, you are unstunnable and receive a passive healing of 50 health per second. This isn't enough to save you from focused enemy fire, especially for something like an Iron Man or a Hela, but if you are only fighting something like an Ultron, then they won't be able to kill you through the ultimate unless they get very, very close. Just be careful that you don't activate your ultimate when you are in full view of or within range of these high damage targets, otherwise they will counter your ultimate before you get a chance to begin doing any meaningful impact. During the ultimate, you want to make sure to limit your range or line of sight to these dangerous targets. If there is a grounded target like a Hela or Punisher who can take you down, then you will usually benefit from focusing your barrage on them first, after which you have free reign to the rest of the team after they are down. Neither the beams nor the explosions seem to have any damage fall off, meaning that if you can consistently hit your shots, then you can easily use these to snipe enemies far away. I found the most value from using this ultimate as an aggressive one rather than a defensive one, sniping enemy backlines or priority targets. It lasts for long enough and is oppressive enough that you will end up landing at least 1, maybe even 2 kills within that one ultimate, or at the very least burn some huge cooldowns or ultimates instead. The ultimate charges incredibly fast, only needing 3 for 100 energy, so 3 for 100 damage dealt or healing done, which is insanely easy to do with Ultron's kit. And that makes any trade, be it getting a pick, getting an ultimate, or just a large support cooldown, absolutely worth it. Generally speaking, if you have the space to get away with it, and enemies aren't all in a great position or behind shields, then you kind of just want to use this thing off of cooldown. During your ultimate, each burst also applies the highest healing per second of any ability in the game, which can save your teammates from dying from practically anything that doesn't one-shot. You can even choose to use some of your bursts for sniping enemies and some bursts for keeping your own teammates alive, because you have 5 different bursts, with each burst having the potential to save a life or secure a kill on its own. The choice is completely yours, but generally speaking, I would focus on the kills first, and once I know I cannot secure a kill with the rest of my burst or a teammate is in critical condition and about to die, then I will obviously turn back to my teammates. Due to its long wind-up time, using this ability reactively will be a bit tough, and most of the time you will end up needing to activate it a little bit before you would activate any other support ultimate or ability to get value if you want to save a teammate. Additionally, just building off of that point, if you know a Wolverine or Groot or any other hero with a big ultimate that pushes all of your teammates together or deals a ton of damage is about to use your ultimate, then popping your own as soon as they start running up will completely take the wind out of their sails, whether they decide to continue with their ultimate
or just hold off onto it, in which case you can just focus them with your ultimate and have your team kill them as well. Again, getting a pick with your ultimate is still worth it because it will probably still win you a fight and you'll get a new one in no time at all. As I mentioned previously, you can also dash during the ultimate. Because of this, I'd either dash when activating the ultimate or keep the dash available before using it. This gives me the ability to dash out if I take too much pressure, dash forward to get an angle and surprise my enemies, or just have that additional movement to keep dodging and weaving and chasing my enemies while I'm being a high priority target all the way up in the air. At the time of this video, Ultron has a team up with Iron Man. Activating the team up charges your primary fire to do a constant healing beam that heals any allies that it touches for 85 health a second. It also deals 75 damage a second to enemies, and it will pierce either targets. The heal has an infinite range, meaning it can heal teammates at any range as long as you have line of sight. It doesn't have any healing fall off, but it does have a damage fall off starting at 20 meters, where it drops down to 56 damage per second at 30 meters and beyond. Keep in mind that despite firing a beam, looks can be deceptive, and it only really seems to heal from the center of the screen where your crosshair is, rather than anywhere on the left side between your character and a crosshair that the beam passes through. While I do like the team up, and tons of people do swear by it, I don't think it is a necessary must-have to get value off of Ultron. It is definitely a way to get some burst healing in, but if you're using it from the air, then it will only really let you hit a singular target at a time. If you're playing from the ground, then using the piercing damage or piercing healing to heal multiple targets while dealing some damage is valuable, pretty much like an invisible woman in a way, but that requires you to be on the ground or get to the ground after using it to get that value, and you're normally going to be up in the sky in the first place. You also can't cancel the team up, meaning that you are forced to fully commit to the beam for the next 8 seconds upon use, which stops you from being able to snipe enemies or deal that burst damage you might need if you are forced into a duel. If I have the team up, I almost never use it unless my teammates desperately need additional heals that I know my drones and potential teammates won't be able to heal up. If my other healers are dead, then going heal bot mode is definitely optimal. As for your positioning, there seems to be a few different ways to play Ultron. In my opinion, the way that makes the most sense is positioning yourself somewhere between and above your backline and tank line by default, and then adjusting your position based on the pressure and space that you might have. If you are uncontested, then you can lean a lot more aggressively while looking for damage picks and poke angles, but if you are taking a lot of pressure, then falling back to your backline will usually keep you nice and safe. Being in the center of your team will let you drone anyone as needed, while also providing aerial space control and dishing out damage and shields as necessary. I've seen some people play Ultron like a grounded support character, but honestly, unless you're taking a ton of damage and pressure that stops you from moving past your support line, then this is kind of just thrown, and if you are going to be playing next to your other supports, then you could just be playing any other support that does that better anyways. As for your target focus, as I mentioned previously, you will usually want to deal with your threats first. Hit scans such as Punisher or Hela are huge problems for you, as well as Namor and Displaceables, and taking care of these targets first will allow you to fly around that much more freely. If you are unable to deal with them on your own, then positioning yourself close to cover or in ways where they never really have that clear line of sight on you works just as well, in which case you go for secondary targets, which is basically anyone who's within your range or line of sight, with an emphasis on squishies that you can blow up with 2 or 3 shots. If there are flyers, then these are usually your highest priority pick. Your beam is very oppressive, and these enemy flyers are extremely easy for you to pick off thanks to your aerial angles as well as hit scan damage. Constantly adjusting your positioning and angles while looking down towards your team will let you keep dishing out consistent damage as well as heals, and ensure that you keep getting opportunities to secure meaningful damage while also keeping your teammates and yourself safe. I normally don't waste time sinking shots into tanks or shields unless there aren't any more meaningful targets to shoot. You can absolutely shoot placeables such as spider nests or rocket bear bees, squids and more, but just keep in mind that it will take quite a few shots to do so, since they usually are going to be outside of your range, meaning you're going to have damage fall off either way. As for heroes that you want, Ultron is a lot easier to play in a 3 support composition where the other 2 supports provide consistent and burst healing, as well as strong defensive ultimates. These will be heroes like Invisible Woman or Luna. Now, don't get me wrong, you can absolutely get away with just 1 healer, but if that is the case, then there is a lot more pressure on you to constantly use your drones perfectly, and you probably still want that Iron Man team up, and your other healer has to keep themselves alive while dealing with a lot of critical health teammates when you can't. And you will rarely find much time to look for picks or damage, as you will be too busy being focused on keeping everyone else alive in the first place. Either way, you won't get anywhere near
maximum value from your drones unless your teammates play grouped and play together, so keep that in mind. If they are very spread, maybe consider a different hero. Iron Man can be nice for the team up, but generally speaking, I want to say that just having an additional flyer is amazing, as you can play the air together and use that drone to keep yourselves alive, while also give you an opportunity to focus fire any other flying targets. And if you keep winning these aerial duels or matchups, this lets your team have a ton of control of the aerial space around the map, which lets you move around and pressure enemies underground more freely, while they can't really fight back properly. Now, moving on with weaknesses, being a flyer, Ultron is going to have a few. Obviously, Ultron will always struggle against hitscan heroes such as Punisher, Hela, Adam Warlock, even hitscan such as Psylocke if she manages to get close enough to go for the combo. Depending on their pressure on you, you need to either play far back and out of range while blinking at them, stay behind cover, or maybe even switch if they don't let you do anything, especially if they have several hitscan heroes at the same time. Additionally, Iron Man is a huge issue for you. The existence of Iron Man means that you cannot pull off an ultimate safely and always need to be careful before committing to any plays. That being said, there is some outplayability here. Iron Man will almost always try to close the gap and beam you with secondary fire, but to turn the tides in his favor, he is going to charge up. If he charges the beam up, try to dash out of range or get behind cover for the duration of the overdrive. After about 9 seconds, you can re-engage and force the fight. If you get the timing down, then he will be animation locked as the overdrive runs out, which gives you 1 or maybe even 2 free shots, and if you're close enough, that should be enough to kill him. If there is an enemy Iron Man, make sure to always respect him until you know he doesn't have an overdrive available, otherwise he's gonna melt you when you least expect it. Just like you're waiting for the overdrive, the enemy Iron Man will usually probably wait for your dodge before committing. Spider-Man can be a problem, but only if you don't know what you're doing. If Spider-Man hits a tracer on you, then he will most likely use his gap closer and pull himself into you for a full combo. If this happens, either hit your secondary fire to get a shield, or if you aren't full health, use your dash ability and dash to the side. This immediately puts you out of Spidey's range and lets you get a free shot in, or maybe even 2, as he scraps to get back up on top of you or out of the way. Additionally, placing a drone and using your secondary fire will usually be enough to save any teammates that he might end up diving. Namor is another big issue for you, especially if they have the Gamma team up and that pesky hitscan squid. Your best bet is trying to methodically poke these squids down, but they will always be a thorn in your side and deny you a lot of space, especially if your teammates aren't helping you break them or healing you up after you take that poke damage. Hulk also provides that additional threat of you being knocked out of the air with his leap, so depending on the lobby, banning Hulk can be an option, otherwise you might be forced to swap, as the hitscan squids will single-handedly stop you from being able to get any meaningful damage or aerial control in. Scarlet Witch isn't actually that big of a problem for you if you have good aim and you're confident in your abilities. Most Wanda players will try to fly up into the air to challenge you, so just wait for them to get close enough before shooting them back. Their beam has a range of 20 meters, the same as your optimal damage, so they have to play within your max DPS range just to get a hit in on you, and you easily outdamage them, assuming you have somewhat of a decent accuracy. If she uses her ghost form to dodge your big beam, then you can just hit melee to cancel it and start shooting again. When she goes up, what I do is I just normally start shooting a beam as she enters that ghost form, and then keep tracking the floating wisp, as this lets me hit her the second she comes out of it. As for other flyers such as Human Torch or Storm, just keeping somewhat of a distance and moving around or playing cover will do wonders. As for settings, I wouldn't say that you really need any fancy crosshair or sensitivity to play Ultron, but I have found that as a PC player, making sure that I have melee on a mouse button, in my case that is mouse 4, so my thumb button lets me do that reload cancel or shot cancel much more easily, which makes me more prone to do it. If you are a controller player, then as with any flyer, I recommend binding your ascend and descend to buttons that work for you. If you are a PC player, then you can also rebind these, but I personally grew accustomed to using space and control for this, so I don't really see a reason to learn anything else if you're already comfortable with it. But yeah, that's how you play Ultron. Hopefully this helps you get some value out of him and start popping off with him real soon. Remember to check out the dojo for that advanced educational walkthrough, and of course, check out the video on the screen if you want to get even better at Marvel Rivals. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.